my name is Coach Hines. I am an educator. I also coach girls basketball, and I am an advocate for kids who have a parent that is incarcerated.
What really got you into your entrepreneurship journey? What really pushed you into, what was that moment like when it was like, okay, I'm about to do this?
Well, I got my first job working at a Title One school. And if you don't know what that is, Title I school is like a public school that's located in a low socioeconomical area. So there are kids that were coming to school with, you know, no soles in their shoes, literally just like shoes and shoelaces. Um, they lacked in a lot of areas, and I was spending my hard-earned money, and I was giving it back to them. Um, so for me, it was like, I can't do this by myself, so I need help. So that's when I uh, created my 501c3, and um, I wanted it to be about what I went through, which was growing up in a single parent home, and sports basically saved my life. So once was introduced to actually seeing kids, students that did not have or have an even playing ground with someone in a better neighborhood, I was like, I have to do something about it. I want to make a stand. I want to be a trailblazer in this area. I didn't really care that if there was anyone else out there doing what I was doing. I just knew that I was going to bridge the gap between the incarcerated parent and the child. So the the main thing was, social media. I would make flyers, asking, hey, do you know anyone that's incarcerated that has a kid that plays sports? And it just kind of like snowballed. And I was getting letters from inmates. I mean, I had my big event maybe 3 months later. So as far as marketing, it was word of mouth and just reaching my target audience, which was student athletes, polling them, asking them, hey, do you know anybody that, has a parent that's currently in jail or in prison or whatever the case may be. And honestly, it was probably about 4 out of 10 kids that had a parent incarcerated that I polled.
So how did you go about, working with these different kids and, working with these different parents that was or that is incarcerated? What's that process look like?
So one of the things that I provide is every Christmas, my father. So for y'all that don't know that, and you don't know either, but my dad did 27 years in prison. He went there when I was 3 months old and died when I was 27. But he made sure I had a Christmas gift. He made sure he celebrated my every birthday, graduation, prom, all of that. So I am the bridge that allows the father to be able to do that for their daughter. And what that looks like is inmates write to my PO box, and what they do is they write a letter to their daughter. They provide me the address, and I provide a baby doll and the letter that the father wrote to that young lady.
That's super dope. That's super dope. I definitely want to, get us more incorporated with that and get more involved with that because we definitely super heavily involved. I know last year, around Christmas time, we adopted a family, and every year we try to do something to give back. Not even just around the holidays, just
Yes.
so I think that's definitely something I would love to get be a part of and get some of our members a part of and maybe incorporate a few different things, a few different gifts and different things like that because I think that's super important, especially for our community where a lot of us unfortunately is have the same experiences and sometimes we don't really overcome that. So I think that's super important for the community, and I definitely want to take my hats off to you for doing for doing some great work like that for sure. So
Thank you.
when it came to putting together your organization, what's some of the things that really stood out when it came to getting funding, or how did you go about getting funding for your organization?
Well, when you're going to these corporate organizations, you definitely have to have your ducks in a row. When I say that, I just mean the paperwork file with the state of that you're in, having your business address, your business phone number, a website, and basically just telling your story without you having to speak. Um, whether that's pamphlets, whether that is your bio, making sure your bio and your social media handles are short and sweet. Um, Honestly, like just, I mean, you hit the ground running, but you have to have your ducks in a row. Like you can't ask State Farm to donate 1,000 basketballs when you don't have a business account or you don't have an EIN number. I mean, yeah, EIN number, or you don't have your 501c3 paperwork together, or you didn't file your 990 in for that year. So, people that there's trillions, millions and millions of people asking for money. So you just have to be able to stand out. And one thing that I did learn is having your ducks in a row and keeping it short and sweet.
Most definitely.
Why and why and what you need. That's all they want to know. They don't want to know anything else.
For sure, for sure. I love that you say that.
Yeah.
This is something that I touch on a lot, man. Especially, it's so crazy. I was literally just having the same conversation the other day with one of our newest members, and this is something that I always talk. I've been talking about for years. Most people just feel like, well, I got my LLC, and then that's it. But you said some key factors when it comes to having all the other boxes checked off, as far as a user friendly website, a business email, business phone number, address, different things like that. And I think a lot of people, overstep those. And, I think, we all hit the ground running. So we really, kind of, really just don't focus on the other boxes that we need to check off. So I'm glad you brought that up because, they need to hear from somebody else other than me.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
about
And I learned the hard way. I was told no. I mean, I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know how to converse that, to the donors that I was asking money from. So, don't be afraid, y'all, to reach out for help. Of course, I have a board, so that's kind of like my support system. But before I created that board, I would, look at one of the a big company nonprofits that I would like study and research was Girls Inc. They're located in Fort Worth, Texas, and if you go to their website, if you've never known anything about them, but if you go to their website, immediately you know what they are doing, their mission, their whole purpose. And so, I just found a company, a nonprofit that was along the lines of what I did and just mimicked them. That's it. I just copied it. I copied the right cat.
And this is why market research is so important, you guys. This is something that I always talk about as well, like every time. And I think a lot of people, they think about, because I think maybe how I ask it, because when I talk about competitors, most people think about a competition, but it's just
Yes.
seeing who's out here doing exactly what you're doing and seeing what they are doing and what you're not doing. It always helps. You got to do your market research and see what's out here. You get what I'm saying? And this is why this is actually module two. This is something that we touch on early on before we even get to creating a business plan. We got to do our market research, and validate our ideas, because
Mm-hmm.
it's nothing under the sun. It's always going to be somebody out there that's doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think we get too much caught up in the competitor world, in the competitor world. But at the end of the day, it's always somebody out there that's doing what you're doing. And
Hmm.
it's not about that. It's about just learning. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Adapting to what's
Yes.
going on. So I think that's super important. And that's something that we always do before we even get to creating business plans for our members. is do the market research. See who's out here doing what you're doing, and they may spark some new ideas. They may spark something, and it's a great way to separate yourself from the competition as well, so you can see what they're doing and see how you can put a little twist on it, and put your own twist on it, your own spice on it. So that's
Exactly.
the key factor for sure. I'm glad you brought that up because I think a lot of people pride be in the way. They don't want to even think about the competitors. They don't even
No.
want to think about other people, but you have to, man. It's super
Yes.
important. And
Always be a student.
mhm. Go ahead, Queen.
No, I was just going to say, always be a student. I tell my athletes, especially my seniors that have already signed, that they signed their the beginning of their senior year or whatever, or verbally committed or whatever, and they feel like, oh, the work is done. I don't have to really perform. I don't have to like work hard. But I'm like, no, what you do now is going to separate you from your competition, which is the girl that plays your same position in college that you're going to go compete for. So either you can start now working or continue to work, or you're going to work, you're going to guarantee to work harder once you get to college and see what you're working up against. So I always tell my girls, like, know who you're going up against at all times. Like, you have to know your opponent.
You got to, and you got to remain a student to the game as well. I
Hmm.
think that's something that's super important. Once you're not doing that, it's over with because the game
Yes.
is steady adapting. It's steady. It's always new players coming in. And there's always new climates that you got to overcome. So I think that's super important to stay, to remain a student to the game, man. So I don't care if you've been in the game 20 years. It's something that I've been telling, as a business to start now. I work with a lot of companies that's they already established as well, and for some reason they feel like they don't have to remain a student to the game. Some, not all of them, but some of them, feel like they already got it. They already got it figured out. And I think the pandemic, really showed us that we don't. None of us got it really figured out. We always got
None of us.
to adapt,
None
and
of us.
it was. I think that was the beauty about that time where everybody
Hmm.
had to sit down and go back to the drawing board, and it really validated, because this is something I've been talking about before the pandemic, really started, but it really validated that, because people, that's been in the game that I knew personally, that been in the industry for 20 plus years, had to also sit down and go back to the drawing board. And
Oh yeah.
now we in the new millennium. Some of them didn't make it through that time, and some of them polished up, and now they're better off. So I think
Yeah.
that's
For
so.
sure.
What schools are you working with right now specifically?
So, like, where do I work? Like, where do I coach at?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I work for Crandall ISD, um, and I'm the varsity assistant there. I actually just took an offer to work for Red Oak ISD girls basketball, doing strictly being over the defensive side of the girls basketball. So when it comes to like marketing, I kind of think about it as like defense on the court. Um, basically, not really exposing, but like picking through my competitors or my competitions slogan and making it my own per se. Um, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
I
This is your
love
number 10 for me, I, and I am just as excited as I was year one. I love it. I know this is what I was called to do, which is why I started the nonprofit. Because when you're an educator, we have what we call Teachers Code of Ethics. So there are a lot of things that I can't do um, while I'm at school, um, but I can because I'm under the umbrella of my nonprofit once I'm off of campus.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I think you definitely gave me a highlight. When you said marketing is like defense.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm using that for sure. I'm using that. You hit that right on the head. So what's your most memorable moment as a coach, or as a nonprofit holder? What's one of your most memorable moments?
I can tell you exactly. It was 2020. Um, no, 2018. I started at Irving High School, um, and it was this young man by the name of Anthony Union. He's my son now. Like I haven't legally adopted him, but like you know, he's been around since 2018. Um, and he's an all around. He was an all around athlete, but he wouldn't go to school. Like he wouldn't go to class. Like he would come to school, but he would just be in the hallways, wouldn't do his work. Da, da, da. And so the boys' head coach saw me praying for my girls, and he was like, "Hey, Hines, let me talk to you for a second." And I'm like, "Okay, what's up? What's up?" He's like, "Man, I got this young man on my team. He has no direction, kind of rough home life. I really think he needs a female positive figure in his life." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." Um, so he introduced him to me, and immediately he had his guard up, and I said, "Hi, young man, my name is Coach Hines." He said, "Hi." I said, "Can I pray for you?" And he said, "Sure." We prayed. And from that day on, anything that I asked him to do, he did it. Now it wasn't easy. Now, I still had to go find him in the hallway and take him back to class. But once I did, he stayed in class. But he was a three-time senior.
Wow.
Seniors graduated at 17, 18, right? He
Right.
was getting ready to turn 20. If he would have failed, he was going to turn 21 the June of his senior year.
Wow.
Yes. So anyway, I worked with him. I stayed after school with him. Him and his mom and I had a great relationship, and I got him graduated. Like I didn't do any of the work for him. I didn't finagle the system. Now I modified it for him because I'm a special education teacher, so I modify and accommodate students that have intellectual and cognitive disabilities. And so, like the work the teacher gave me, I broke it down for him so that he could understand it. So, I mean, he did it, and I never will forget when COVID hit. He had four tickets, and I didn't get picked to go to graduation, to work the graduation, so I couldn't attend because of COVID. Do you know that he gave me one of the four tickets to come because he said, "Without you, Coach Hines, this wouldn't have been possible." So that has been that's what pushes me to keep going in education and in my nonprofit. Like that story alone. And when he calls me and tells me his success stories, like I got my welding license. He's just now got his CDL probably about 6 months ago. So, I mean, he's. I wish he would have went to college to play football and basketball, but he didn't. But he's thriving in other areas, different
Yeah.
ways.
That's
So, yes, that's it right there.
That's beautiful, man. I think, and that's what it's all about, man. Being a servant to somebody else, and really, taking the time out, to pass on those blessings and, do God's work. I think that's super important for us to do. Whether you're a business owner, a community leader, whatever it is that you're doing, I
For
think
sure.
that's the key. Doing something for somebody else, helping somebody else. That's the cheat code right there. And I think that's beautiful. And I think we all need that. I talk about this a lot. And this is really one of the reasons why I'm so excited about our STEM workshops because we in a time where especially for the youth, they're different. They're these schools and these institutions are trying to teach them on a 80-year-old curriculum, and they can't learn like that. We don't have any new ways, and we wonder why the kids are not interested in these curriculums. They're not interested going to school. They're not interested in going to class. And I end up being one of those type of people. Once I got into college, like I started to really see like, man, this is all some. This is a scam. They not really in it to really teach us to thrive. They teaching us to be workers. It
Yes.
is what it is.
Yes. And which is why I make sure to praised, him by saying he's not doing what I thought he should have been doing, but he's thriving in other areas. And just to kind of piggyback on what you said about the curriculum, and it's not even so much the curriculum, it's the mindset that these teachers who have been in education for, I'm just going to say 20 plus years, 'cause even 20 years ago, is natural progression. Um, and the reason why I'm so successful with the kids that I deal with, the bad actors, the wannabe gang doughboys, the batos, whatever, is because I meet them where they're at. Like I'm not judging you. I'm not pointing the finger at you. Look, I've been in the same situation you've been in.
Yes.
You know, now that's the part that I have to save until I get into the nonprofit role because I can't give them my testimony, like my real testimony, because it
Yeah.
goes against code of ethics, which is why I started my nonprofit.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I mean, and that's it's crazy that you even have to do that and go because we have to be able to connect with these kids and connect
Hmm.
with them. I used to be ashamed to talk about my past as well until it got to the point where once I started talking about my past and I started to give my testimonies, I started to see the change and I started to see us really connect and so many doors opened up. So it's definitely something important that we have, especially for the youth. They can see right through a fake. They can see
Oh
right through
yes,
it
yes,
easy.
yeah.
They
That's
very.
why two things kids love: consistency and structure.
Hmm.
They love, no matter how defiant they are towards it, they love it. They desire that because they
Yeah,
don't. I mean, they're kids. They don't know. They can't make big people decisions. They can't make decisions that you and I make. So
yeah,
they. I mean, they have to have it. And no matter if you poll kids and tell them, "Do you like structure?" They're going to tell you not. 80% of them are going to say yes.
definitely, definitely, definitely. And hey, we got it take for people like us to do it, man. We gonna do it. It's so many, and we're in the best time right now because there's so many different platforms that we have now, that we can utilize to reach them. Like our live stream, social media
Hmm.
is a big thing now. Podcasts, webinars, different things now that we can utilize to really touch the next generation, and that's something that I'm excited about doing with the mob and with our upcoming workshops. It will be all ages, so we're trying to get the little ones in there, and so far we've worked with younger entrepreneurs as young as 5 years old, and I'm seeing the difference, and I'm seeing it
Yes.
through the training, and we got to plant those seeds super early, just like my people did for me, and so forth and so forth. I was one of the water bottle boys selling water bottles, selling candy in school, and and so forth and so forth, and that that sowed that seed for me to be an entrepreneur and be able to go through different things that most people can't go through because it's hard being an entrepreneur.
Oh
It's not.
yes.
I know
Yeah.
everybody on social media want to make it look like it's all glitz and glam. It's they having a great old time, but it's super hard. It's harder than actually having a 9 to 5.
Hmm.
So I always give my utmost respect to anybody that's just making it in this economy, and at the same time giving back to somebody else. So
Yeah.
big ups up to you, man, and I definitely want to do our part to really just be a part of what you got going on for sure. So I got
Yes.
one last question for you. We kind of spoke on it earlier, especially when it came to really kind of meeting them where they at and talking about your testimony. What legal or ethical dilemma have you encountered in your business journey, and what did you learn from
So um my I didn't really like, it wasn't like trouble, but my bookkeeper, my accountant, um I was using my business debit card as a personal card, just swiping it, just you know. And so like the first, I think, like 45 days, like she didn't say anything. And then like once it got time, close to the quarter to end, she was like, "Hey, and my accountant is my sister."
it?
She was like, "Hey, are these business purchases?" And she's like, and I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, So she like highlighted it and sent it over to me, and I'm like, no, I was at work and I just bought lunch, and she was like, no, you can get in
Right.
really big trouble for that.
Can't get these socks on. Like, what's these socks?
Yes. So like yeah. So like you cannot use your business account as if it's the personal account. Like you have to pay yourself, and that's
Yeah.
it.
I think a lot of business owners and a lot of entrepreneurs go through the same thing. We was actually just talking about this a couple of weeks back with Jamie Perez. She was on from the West Coast, and I think that's one of the things, especially when it comes to taxes, man, because the feds, they don't play. They gonna come down on you. They're gonna come for their money. They don't care.
Yes.
So I think that's something, that's real big that all entrepreneurs need to learn. Really within that first year, separate it, separate.
Yes.
Pay yourself,
Yes.
pay yourself. So that's a good.
Yeah, and it doesn't like it doesn't have. Well, let me say this: for nonprofit, there's a cap on how much you can get paid. But if you're just in a regular LLC, you can pay yourself as much as you want. As long as whatever you have left over can sustain your business. If that makes sense.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. That's huge. That's big. I appreciate you, Queen, for sure, man. Real quick,
Yes.
let them
Thank
know,
you so much. It was an honor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, most definitely. Real quick, let them know where they can find you and how they can support your initiatives, and let them know your website for sure.
Okay. So my website is iamreverse.org. My Instagram is underscore I am reverse. And share. If you want to support my Cash App is reverse 18. And just real quick, reverse is just a synonym for not going down the same road that my parents went down.